I'm Judge Heidi Almase. I'm the judge in Las Vegas Municipal Court Department 3, which is a city court. And in that courtroom I have two specialty courts, which are diversion programs. One is H.O.P.E court, which is an adult drug court. And the second program is one I started in the last year, which is mental health court, which is for folks who have mental health issues and also typically have addiction issues as a co-occurring issue.
I am Tracy Horne and I am a graduate of one of the specialty courts, the drug court, H.O.P.E court program.
Been in Las Vegas since 1979. Came here when my mom, she was a single mom. She came out here to get work. And I went to school out here for a bit, went to live with my dad. I dropped out of high school. And I came back to Las Vegas and I had my GED. And I worked my way through college as a custodian for the school district. So I've been working since I was about 12, which I think helps with the kind of work I do because we're up a lot 24/7 with the different specialty courts. And that's just a little bit about me.
My life before entering the court was basically 32 years of criminal activity and crack cocaine, alcohol use and abuse, mental health issues, in and out of mental health institutes. Pretty much a crazy life, or just about all my life. I started using at the age of 13. It spiraled out of control at the age of about 19. I would start my criminal history anyway from under the influence, internal possession, prostitution, drug sales, burglaries, pretty much everything.
A diversion court means that you come in and you have a criminal case and it's a misdemeanor because the city is all misdemeanors. And instead of just going through on a regular docket, which means that you either set your matter for trial or it gets resolved by negotiation, you are diverted to a program. And the programming for these two courts includes no alcohol, no drugs, so there's a lot of random drug and alcohol screening, counseling, medication compliance. For instance, in the mental health court, most of those people need to be medically stabilized. We also do medical stabilization in the drug court, but it's usually different. It usually has to do with physical ailments. And then we layer on the counseling piece and a vocational piece if that's appropriate. And we do close monitoring, and that's the 24/7 piece. Myself, my coordinators, all of our vendors are available 24/7 in case something happens after hours to sort of keep that close monitoring. And best practices also means that those folks see me at least once or twice a month minimum. Diversion courts exist nationwide. They are pretty new, which means that they're in the last 10 to 15 years. A lot of courts and court programming were trying to come up with a way to keep people out of the jail system, and we saw a need almost immediately with addiction. And then later, like the most recent thing that we've seen is for veterans, trying to do something to help veterans who are coming out of the service and who are disrupted because of their service to their country. Mental health is also a big issue. So I would say those are the three top needs that we're seeing right now. And courts do this nationwide. And there is a best practices on the national level, and we all try to adhere to those.
Through the H.O.P.E court program, what they did is they introduced you to a 12-step program. And during my addiction, I was introduced to many things: acupuncture, mental health medications, which was also another way of medicating, over-medicated, which has done a lot with addiction. God, so many things. And just lock her up, all kinds of things. What got me in touch was the beginning of this and gave me peace with this addiction is the fact that I know it's not about the drugs. I can honestly say my behavior started way before the actual substance started. So that's where the 12 steps and sponsors took me to the very beginning.
We have to show that the programs work. And one of the ways that we measure is, are the people who are in the programs coming in and out of the jail with the same frequency that they did before the diversion? So, for example, with my mental health court, it's brand new. We've only been up for a little over a year. We've had 12 graduates in that time, and we've had 0 recidivism, which means they haven't come back into the system at all, which is almost unheard of. Yes. If you can get better than 50%, anything better than 50% is a success. That's incredible, but mental health is a little different. Addiction is a different kind of creature. So you will always be in recovery, and you have to maintain that recovery lifestyle. The similarity is mental health is if you require medication, you need to stay on medication, you need to keep your medication monitored. And if you can keep those items stable, the chances are really good you won't come back into the system. Because the diversion for these two programs is people who would not ordinarily have contact with the criminal justice system, but for they either have an addiction or they have a mental illness. And all the different courts have kind of a different flow to them. I come from a mental health background and a law enforcement background, and my favorite part is being able to talk to people. I like that moment where I get to sit and just have a conversation. When I worked in the jail, when I was doing my master's degree, one of the things that I noticed right away working on the mental health side of it was people, they just wanted somebody to talk to. These folks were starved for someone to listen to them. And to be heard, to actually be heard. And it just stuck with me. It stuck with me throughout my career. I always tell the folks when they come into H.O.P.E court, I said, you know, look around you. You've got people in front of you. You've got people behind you. We want it to be a safe place. If there's going to be an issue, I want you to have it here. Mm-hmm. And the other part is we're going to ask you to do things that you are not going to want to do, that you are going to be violently opposed to doing. And I just ask that you trust us, that we're not going to ask you to do anything that will hurt you. The podium, they come up and where they stand in relationship to the podium. The newer they are, the further they stand away, or they stand off to the side, and they're like, I don't want to talk to you. Why would I tell you anything? But that's the process, and that's the moment that they come in, and that's one of the best practices is having that time to come in and have a conversation with your judge. And then meanwhile, you've got this entire team that's always available for H.O.P.E court. Tracy had access to Craig, my coordinator, and then my staff, and then when she was at Toni's house with all of the women there to provide that other piece. And that's what we do is we look for the other piece. What are we missing? I remember that your brother came in, and I remember that I was touched by it because of where he was at the time. And I thought he must really love his sister.
My brother was a state legislator at the time, an attorney here, and he is an attorney here in Las Vegas. My brother has been my he has believed in me for a long time. He has been saving me for the whole 32 years of my addiction. I was back in my addiction, committed a petty theft, and was arrested, and my brother would come in to be my attorney. And I think they kind of, at the time, I was like, God darn, they tricked me. Because, you know, and then I think Judge Almase's heart said, okay, I'm going to take her in, let her come to H.O.P.E court. So I would beg, I was so out of it. I would beg Judge Almase to let me go home and lock everything up, though. But that saved my life, Judge Almase. I don't think if you were to let, your wisdom is amazing. I sit back and I reflect how I got into H.O.P.E court, you know. And I remember that they say, I gotta get home and get this together and that together. But I just had dope still at the house. Really seriously. But you looked in my face, you said, okay. But had I not, but I was gonna come because my brother's name was on it. So I was just gonna do that little bit and come to court. And for some reason I realized I could not stop. I could not stop. And even coming in, once I did come in and surrendered myself and came into the program, went into detox, and came into the program, I still didn't know what I suffered from. I've always heard it was a disease, but I don't know. I was just so twisted. You know, I was just so twisted in my thinking. You know, and the whole court is amazing. And like I said, I got freedom when one of the graduates there stood up in court and he gave the analogy of he suffers from a disease of a threefold nature and how it affects him. He broke it down into to possibly where I can understand and grasp it and say just maybe, because the ideal of it just simply being a disease was not enough for me. But when he got up there, that graduate at Hope Court that day, when I was only a few days in there, and he broke it down like that, it sounded just like me. It was a diagnosis of my symptoms that I was having. So I think I kind of surrendered that day. And then I was placed in Toni's house after that.
You didn't want to go.
I did not. I was upset about the house arrest bracelet, everything. But you know, now today, I can see why, because I see women that come into Toni's house on their own merit that don't have those things in place, like the no family, the ankle bracelet, the accountability of court. And I think that's why they fail. Because see, one thing about us as addicts, we stay in our own heads and our own thinking, and we go, I call it washing dirty clothes in dirty water. You know, and our ego rebuilds itself, it tells us in the book. See, I've read about this disease today. You know, it tells me I'm going to go to that before I go to the right thing. So those people that don't have the help of the specialty courts don't have that must do. So I'm thankful for the ankle bracelet that kept me in the right boundary today. I'm thankful for the accountability to come in. I'm thankful for your kindness. And those in the Hope Court program, from the urinalysis lady, Miss Tracy, all the way to Craig to the bailiff. You know, all of them played a major part in me being clean today over 3 years. You know I was one of the ones, she ain't gonna do it, ain't no way in heck that one. You know, because, you know, statistically, I shouldn't be sitting here today. You know, I was considered a lost cause. I should be sitting there. If anybody would have gave me that, they would say she'd be in the penitentiary for life right now. Because that was my next step, was prison for life. But through the Hope Court program and willingness, just a little bit of willingness. You know, you spoke of me not wanting to go to the Toni house. You know, this is how sick my thinking was. I was going to go through the front door, cut the brake and out the back door and jump the fence. Well, I wanted to do all the extra one. You know, but you put me in such a safe place. Such a safe place where all I had to do was breathe. And for once in my life, I thought it through. And where are you going to go? What are you going to do, Tracy? Where are you going to go? And when is it going to stop? You know, and then that was nothing but God.
See, and I never thought you were a lost cause. All I saw was your light. That's all I saw.
The Hope Court set me up for success all the way around. I was placed in a safe place. Not only that, I began to see others who looked like me, who seemed to have found the solution to this disease called addiction. And then I just got an idea that maybe I could. Maybe I could. I got to see it. You know, other black women, successful women, coming into the house where I resided, who said they suffered like I suffered. And that gave me hope.
I think we're getting better, but I think we still have people that don't acknowledge that addiction is a disease. And the example that I use is if you were diabetic and you knew that you needed insulin, you'd just go get medical care for your insulin. And people don't see the analogy between addiction and a common physical ailment, if you will. They don't see them as the same. And that's where that education piece is. Science has shown us, affirmatively shown us, that people who have addiction issues respond differently to whether it's drugs or alcohol. They have a different reaction to it. We know that their brain is wired differently. Yes.
The scariest part is when I graduated. And it's time to put the pedal to the metal. And I did horrible. I made some, that one thing that I used no matter what. But I made some very unhealthy choices of misery, but I didn't use no matter what. You know, because I believed that once I put one in me, it was all bets off. So I couldn't do that, but I made some unhealthy, very bad unhealthy choices. And I began from working with a sponsor. So the difference between that miserable time is I'm in the work, I'm healing all parts of who I am today. And I know that the fact smoking crack cocaine is just a symptom of everything else. I learned that. So through the Hope Court program, in Toni's house, and the people and the women that come in there, a little time.
Tracy didn't want to go to Toni's house. That's how we knew that's what she needed. It is a strangeness in the addiction field that what you resist the most is probably what you need the most. And my coordinator is also in recovery. He's 20 plus years and he's been working in recovery all that time, and I've learned a lot from Greg. And I wanted to please Tracy. That's part of me learning who I am on that bench. I'm like, no, she's fine. And he's like, she needs to go live in a women's house. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And she said, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. But you were willing.
Yeah.
You're like, all right, I'll do it. I'll do it. And then I remember as you went through the program, I think you had a family member that went out of town and you stayed at the house.
My daughter.
Yes.
Yes.
And you said, I can't believe these people are letting me stay in their house and their cars and their stuff.
Yeah.
And you were so happy.
Yeah.
And you were wide-eyed about it.
Yeah.
And I thought that was such a great moment.
Yeah, it was a great moment.
I thought that was.
And she just brought up the family. Yeah, that was my daughter's, you know. That I am so thankful for that family thing that's in place in Hope Court. Because, you know, if I have ever a chance to go in and talk to them, it would be to follow that. That and relationships. Definitely. But the family thing, you know, I don't think I had to come address those behaviors and everything until about 2 years in. Then they say, I remember when you, like, oh, here we go. But because of the process of Hope Court, I was ready. I was ready to let them have that. And not talk, believe it or not. You know, I like to talk. And not talk and let them have that. Even today, you know, they try to not really bring it at me, but you know, I left some marks, some scars, and it's okay. Mm-hmm. You know, just recently, as a matter of fact, my car broke down on Saturday and everybody was there. Credit cards, money, rent a car, you know. You're gonna let me today, you know, and you're gonna give me $500, you know. It was amazing. I had it, but you know, it was just that they said it to me today. So you know, the relationship between, it's not just about the money and stuff, you know. It's just that and then my niece comes into the house, you know. She asks about my mother and being a grandmother, it's overall being an aunt, being a mother, being a grandmother, being a daughter today. It's just amazing. My niece came, she lives with me, she came into my room and she says, I want you to help me raise my daughter. My mind going, I don't know I'm gonna get no baby. Lord, I don't know about no baby. She knows, she says, no, that inside stuff. I was blown away. And then you see my that face control, like I'm gonna cry. She said, don't blow it. Don't blow it too deep. I was like, no, calm. I don't want that. It was just amazing. You want me to give her something? You know, it's just amazing things are happening.
Think of all the stuff you have to give.
Oh man, it's just something. It was something else.
That's what.
When I came in, I had burned every bridge. I couldn't, you know, my criminal history made it so I couldn't sign my name to nothing. I had no credit. I was 50, I would have been 51, 52 years old at the time. So I had no credit, no work history, nothing like that. I couldn't, where have I been, you know? Women have one thing in the prison, one thing, and that's repacking boxes for Walmart as opposed to the men, but I'm not making this political. You know, and that's one thing I remember, the injustice for that. Anytime that I even had an urge to do something right, I left with this mark on me, with nothing in there, not even anywhere to go. Mm-hmm. I either was paroled to a trick's house, or to somebody who had to forge the paperwork to get me back to the next dope house. I had no way to set myself up for success to get out.
I think we have a huge social justice issue in front of us that we absolutely have to address. I know from the work that I do that if you come out of prison and you have a felony record, it's almost impossible to get a job. If you're not able to get a job, you're not going to be able to provide for your family. It's just a constant cycle, and we have to give people the tools. If you commit a crime and you've gone to prison, you've done your time, you need to be able to come out and have a trade. You need to be able to work. You need a chance. And there are so many different things that we have to address. We have to address, you know, who's going to prison, why are they going to prison, is that fair and reasonable, what happens when they get out. I think there are so many different facets to that issue. I mean, it's a very, very complex issue, and it's very tightly wound up with who we are as a country and the things that we've done as a country. But the bottom line is you need to be able to come out and you need to be able to work. If you cannot get a job, what are you going to do? And that's the part that I'm really passionate about. And we've got good people in the state of Nevada who are trying to work on this issue and make it better. But I think Nevada is in the minority. Even in the diversion program, is finding appropriate homes for women and for women with children.
Yes, absolutely.
Because women who are either pregnant, have new babies, or have children need safe places to go, and they need the recovery services too. And there's hardly any place you can go.
Nowhere to go. I go right back to where it's not good to go.
Yeah.
Yes, I think more education is needed. More education is needed for women coming into recovery on the change in their body, on how to take care of these kids you're going to get back one day, how to have a healthy relationship. That's a big one. How do we get into healthy relationships with that the people, and not lose ourselves?
There's physical trauma, there's emotional trauma, there's sexual trauma, there's the trauma of losing your children. And I have women that come through and they don't know when they lost their children or how they lost their children or necessarily where their children are at, but they do know that they had them. And the piece that I agree, the education, the nutrition, how we take care of ourselves, how to be a woman, you know, how to think differently about that. That's one of the things that Monique is really
gave us.
She's like tuned into it.
Tuned into it. Yes, absolutely.
And that gives you strength, and I think it gives you a sense of control.
Absolutely. And she's like you. It's just seeds. Seeds she planted. Yeah, and it just burst up one day.
Yeah. Absolutely. There's a lot of. I think women we're complicated.
Yeah. And
getting through it is complicated. There's a lot of different pieces.
I see a lot of women leave Toni's house because of that, because her standards are so high. She won't settle, especially when she knows. She's like you, she has that keen eagle eye. She knows what to say. I know you can give more. I wish more houses was like Monique. She's really dedicated to the house. She's like Judge Almase, where she learns each person individually. And but she's learned too not to dive so much in first till they make their first step commitment first. She's not gonna get tired out, you know. So that's one thing I loved about the house was the commitment to me. I was loving sobriety so much and learning that I wasn't even looking at it. It was no big deal to graduate. It was no longer any big deal to go every month. It was not a hindrance for me to have to be there every. It was a joy to go in every month, which is weird.
That's how we know you're ready to graduate.
Yeah, so I think that word court is what gets you, if you just call it hope.
Yeah. I have moments of joy, and they're almost always when I'm sitting up there talking to people.
I'd say that.
And that connection, and I realize this is why I'm here. This is, you know, and it's not me. I always say, never by me, but through me. And I have that on my bench. That's on my bench. Is that reminder? I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to have these moments and to be able to watch, to be a witness to these folks. Because I have plenty of folks, and we've lost people. We've lost people since I've been doing this, and those were hard moments. Because, you know, some of them came through the court, and God, you wanted to be able to get them to stay, and they weren't ready, and they didn't make it. Those are hard moments. Those are the hardest moments. What I always tell the graduates when they graduate is, please stay in touch. Please, if things start getting a little wonky, reach out to us, because we don't change those phone numbers. And I said, I would rather that you reach out before it's a crisis, so that we can help if we can, because I'll always be here. That's my commitment, whether I'm a judge or something else. Because I don't know, we're kind of all knit together now. And that's important. And we have people that continue to come in and check in. Aftercare is probably the piece that we're still working with, how we want aftercare to look like and the kind of contact that we want to have. I think it's important. It needs to be more than you can call us anytime or you can come into the courtroom anytime. But you'd be surprised how many people do.
Mm-hmm.
They come back in. Yeah, they come back in and say hello, and I like that. I think the biggest challenge that you face sometimes is other people's perceptions of how things should be.
Mm-hmm.
You need to do it like this, why aren't you doing this, you know, and having faith that, you know, what you're doing is the right thing. And oftentimes one of the criticisms that I've been given is, you know, you got a Messiah complex, you think you can save everybody, and I don't. But I think everybody deserves a chance.
That's right.
That's what I got. I had throughout the course, I mean, I totally hear you when you say I shouldn't be here. Because I should be, the choices I made,
Yeah,
I should be dead in a ditch somewhere. I don't know why I'm here. I have no clue. But it was people holding the door open and a hand out and building a longer table, not a higher wall. And I believe that we have to get back. So I don't necessarily mind that criticism. It makes my heart hurt that people think that. But if I offer you a hand up and you know you take it or you don't, that's up to you. But I feel like I have that obligation. I have to, because so many people did it for me.
You could drop anything at your feet. It's great, and you listen with a smile. And some of the stuff that came out of my mouth was out there, man. But you smile like that and you say, not right now.
That's the mom.
Just not right now. We're not going to do that right now. Why don't we just try something different?
Well, we're about 5 weeks from a general election right now, and the last 2 years has been really, really tough. It's been a hard season, and I think you go through dark seasons. A lot of tests, you know, and we're working hard, but I honestly don't know what's going to happen. And I've always felt called to do this job and to have the specialty courts. And I'm trying to figure out the capital R reason, because so much of what's happened the last 2 years just seems really unfair. And somebody told me that the day they said, you know, you're on the right path when everything is leveraged against you to try and get you off that path. So I'm trying to have faith in that, and it's been a season of really leaning on my faith and knowing that no matter what happens, it's going to be the right thing. But it's hard. It's hard. The job is wonderful. I love the job. I love going to work every single day. But the process of keeping the job is one of the less pleasant aspects, but it's necessary. And I've got a good team and we're working hard. But, you know, the reality of today's voting situation is, you know, the person who spends the most money can end up with the job even though they don't have the same passion or the same background. And I've really had to wrap my head around that's a reality. When people are able to go and live a full life and take care of themselves, that's better for everybody. And that's the part that I talk about. And I talk about the success that we've had. You know, and I tell them that I work really hard. I show up early and I stay late.
I am just trying to live life, better person. You know, trying to get my voting rights back, because I'll be down there in a minute.
You know what? Thank you.
No, thank you.
Because I learned as much from you. And I tell you that.
Oh, yes, you did. Thank you.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you.